it's very structured. And MUFON has been in the business of collecting sighting reports for 50 years. So we've learned how to construct a good field investigator's manual. And it tells the new investigator really what he or she really needs to know to conduct an investigation. So let's say you called the local group and reported something, or let's say you went on the MUFON website. Well, that report would be filtered to the proper part of the country where your report came from. And our first step is to call the person and see if there's actually somebody there. And Jan Harzan was describing how with hoaxers, they either won't return the call, or they give you a phony phone number, or you even, if you do call them, they'll go, "Oh, gee, I didn't expect anyone to contact me." They're surprised. So that's really the first step, is to contact the witness.
So you guys then make a point of, do you contact everybody that makes a report, or try to?
We try to, yeah. We try to. And, it's not impossible that a particular part of the country, a particular city, a particular state might have a backlog. They may have more reports than they can handle at the time. And then there are other times when, depending on the situation and where the group is, they can be going hungry for cases. But we do have a case management system. We have a chief investigator, and that person helps distribute the work, if necessary.
Oh, wow. Now, have you ever been ever fooled by somebody who, is a prankster, or, do you find some people make these reports that are making a fake report? Are they doing it just to get for the fun of it, or are they trying to do it to get 5 minutes of fame, or is it a combination of both?
Well, and like Jan said a few days ago, the hoaxers tend to be young and male. It falls a lot of times into the prank category. There are some people that are a little bit more serious, and they might be trying to thumb their noses at the UFO community to see if they can fool them, and then think, ha ha ha, I fooled you. And then there are some people that will basically do anything to get attention and get their 15 minutes of fame, like you mentioned. Fortunately, there aren't a lot of people like that, but there are some.
Wow. What is some of the biggest ones that you can remember that you investigated about? I mean, do you remember any of the cases offhand that you could talk about?
That I was involved in personally?
Yeah.
Or yeah. And this is going way back, because I don't serve as field investigator anymore. But back in those days, I mean, we got reports. I got a call. I got a call from Walt Andrus one morning, and he said, "Tom, I've got a report of a possible crop circle. Would you check into it?" And so it was in an apartment complex. I jump in the car right then and there, go out there, and somebody took a lawnmower and cut a circle in the yard. So that wrapped that case up pretty fast.
Yeah, I get it.
We had another case where a person he reported an aircraft in a certain part of town that was meandering around and had a lighted tail, but no tail fins. And it was an interesting report to me in that there's an historical report of, now this is going way back, I believe into the 60s, of people were at a drive-in, and they saw a number of craft. They were needle-nose craft with lighted tails and no tail fins. And at the time I thought, well, I wonder if there's any connection there. But I happened to end up living in the part of town where he made that report. And airliners typically will come in from the southeast, and they will fly in a pattern over the neighborhood to get into the glide path. Now, in San Antonio, the airliners typically vector toward the west, and the glide path is a few miles west of town, outside of 1604, and they fly into the airport. So what I'm trying to say is, I think that he just saw a commercial aircraft on a little bit different of a flight path than most of them were on. I had another instance where some young men were claiming to see UFOs, and they were in a town that was really quite a ways from San Antonio. It was about half the way to Corpus Christi, and they were saying that they were seeing these UFOs, and they had seen the craft through their rifle scope. And one night I get a call that they're seeing the UFOs again. Well, that night there was a certain cloud cover over the city, and there was a location where spotlights were being run. And you know how spotlights can reflect off the cloud layer?
Oh, yes.
So I actually drove out there. It was a pretty long drive, but I drove to their location where they were. They were claiming that they were seeing UFOs, and I could see it was those spotlights being reflected off the cloud layer. So these are the kinds of things that you learn, from going out and actually checking into these things.
Okay. So you learn. How hard is it, and what do you have to do when you join MUFON, if a person wants to become a field investigator? I mean, how much work is involved, and what type of test is involved, and what all is involved for them to become one?
Well, you become a MUFON, quote, member, which is essentially subscribing to the MUFON Journal. And then if you want to become a field investigator, you can enroll in the training program, and that involves getting a copy of the Field Investigator Manual. We also have a training course that's online, and you study the manual, and then you pass an exam. And once you pass the exam, and MUFON runs a background check, make sure that we're not hiring Jack the Ripper or anything, then you can earn your field investigator's card, and then you work in your so-called state section, which is generally a city, an urban area, but there are rural areas, of course, and you just get with your closest state section director or state director, and attend local meetings and discuss sighting and investigation problems with your local group, and hopefully start to get assigned cases. And you're not going to go out in the MUFON way. You're not going to go out by yourself. You always want to go with someone, and go with a more experienced investigator, and start learning that way. Now, I do want to say this. You don't have to go through MUFON to become a field investigator. There are books on field investigation. You can check them out at the library. You can go on the internet and find them, and buy some books on the subject, study up on it, and then, you can just go out and collect what reports you can and investigate them on your own and build your own case file. And that can be a lot of fun, very enjoyable. But of course, we encourage people to join MUFON because we have a structured database and we have a structured system.
Yeah, too. But when you investigate people, versus if you belong to like MUFON, which people know of, at least a lot of people know of it, versus if you do it on your own. I think you're going to get more response when you go out and investigate, being with an organization like MUFON, than you would be doing it out of your house. At least that's what I would think.
That's probably true, Gary. But if it all boils down to anything else in life, you start on a path of action. If you stick with it, you can build it over time. And even if you were just operating on your own locally, eventually, you'd be building up the case file. So I'm just saying, you don't have to go through MUFON.
Now, I
certainly encourage everybody to.
Now, I got to ask you another question, Tom. Why is it this year the UFO sightings normally start dropping in September for some reason? This year, it hasn't been dropping off. In fact, it's actually been increasing, at least from what I've been hearing and talking to people. I mean, I've been doing talk radio since 1976. I know a lot of people in ufology, and they're all saying the same thing. It's been increasing. What do you think it is? What's going on? Is it just more people being aware of it now because the Navy came out and said that, hey, we got footage, and yes, there is unidentified flying objects. They're not saying that they're coming from some other place. They're just admitting that there's unidentified flying objects. I mean, if people is more aware of it, is that what's going on?
I think that's part of it, Gary. There are several things that are going on. There are drones now, and there's an increasing number of amount of drone activity in the air these days, and it certainly doesn't account for all of the new sightings that we're getting, but they do account for part of it. Part of it is public awareness and excitement that could possibly be coming from shows like Ancient Aliens and Unidentified that's associated with the To the Stars Academy. Now, Ancient Aliens has been around a long time, but this awareness starts to build, and then we've had, like you say, this publicity from the Navy and from the To the Stars Academy. And it may also be because there's an increased number of possible classified aircraft flying around, and that may have something to do with some of these sightings in certain parts of the country. And then there's also just the unknown factor. Sometimes there's just a fluctuation in activity and in reports, and we may not be able to actually put our finger on it.
Yeah, interesting. Now, we're going to have to go on break. Tom will be back in about 3.5 minutes. I got a lot of questions to ask you. Then I know that you want to tell us here, too. I mean, we have you for another hour and a half. You can get into what your plans are, what you are doing, trying to prove what's going on, conspiracy-wise, paperwork-wise, what have you. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website, www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. We'll be right back.
What we are asking for from the government is full disclosure. Because we know what we're seeing, and there are too many of us. We're not going to.
As I gaze upon the annals of time, one thing that comes through: we are not alone in this universe. It's a thought that rings true. Ancient cave dwellers drew spacecraft on the walls. It's a recurring theme. I've seen the same thing while walking late at night.